The handcuffs clicked around my wrists in front of my entire family. My sister stood behind the police officer, tears streaming down her face, pointing at my purse. Inside was a diamond necklace I'd never seen before in my life. Hi, I'm Emma, and I'm 28 years old. Until 3 months ago, I thought I knew exactly who I could trust in this world. I wasn't the golden child in my family. That title belonged to my younger sister Chloe. I was the reliable one, the backup plan, the one who never caused drama or asked for much attention. I worked as a bookkeeper at a small accounting firm. Nothing glamorous, but it paid my bills and gave me independence. My parents always made it clear that Chloe was their priority. She was studying pre-med, she was beautiful, she had potential. I accepted my role as the background sister who kept the peace and never rocked the boat. What I didn't realize was how far they'd go to protect their precious daughter when she finally made a mistake too big to cover up quietly. I wasn't rich or glamorous like Chloe pretended to be, but I had something they didn't expect, a backbone they'd never seen before. If you've ever been thrown under the bus by your own family to save someone else's reputation, drop your location in the comments right now. I read every single one, and you need to know you're not alone in this. The nightmare started at my cousin's engagement party at the Riverside Country Club. It was one of those family events where everyone dressed up and pretended we were closer than we actually were. I'd driven separately because I had to work late, arriving just as cocktail hour was ending. The air inside smelled like expensive perfume and champagne. Crystal glasses clinked against each other as people laughed and talked in small groups. The carpet was thick under my heels, the kind that muffled footsteps and made everything feel more formal than it needed to be. Chloe looked stunning in a borrowed designer dress and what I assumed was borrowed jewelry, a gorgeous diamond tennis necklace that caught the light every time she moved. She was holding court near the bar, surrounded by cousins and their boyfriends, telling some story that had everyone laughing. Emma. She waved me over with that bright smile she'd perfected. I was just telling everyone about the promotion you might get. Might get. Always conditional with Chloe. Always a way to minimize whatever small success I might have. But something felt off that night. Chloe kept touching her neck, adjusting the necklace nervously. Her fingers would drift up to it every few minutes, like she was making sure it was still there. She disappeared to the bathroom 3 times in an hour. When I asked if she was feeling okay, she snapped at me, which wasn't like her. She was usually better at maintaining her sweet facade, especially in public. "I'm fine," she said, her voice sharp. "Just tired from studying." The evening was winding down when it happened. Mrs. Henderson, our host's elderly mother, was saying goodbye to everyone near the coat check. She was patting her chest frantically, looking around the floor with panic in her eyes. "My necklace," she kept saying to anyone who would listen. "Has anyone seen my diamond necklace? I took it off to wash my hands in the powder room, and now it's gone." Her voice was getting higher with each repetition. Other guests started looking around, checking under tables, scanning the floor. The cheerful party atmosphere shifted into something tense and uncomfortable. I watched Chloe's face go completely white. Her hand flew to her throat, where the necklace she'd been wearing all evening was no longer visible. She'd tucked it inside her dress. Mrs. Henderson was describing the missing necklace in perfect detail, the exact same necklace my sister had been wearing. The one that had somehow vanished from around Chloe's neck in the past 10 minutes. That's when Chloe grabbed my purse from the coat check table. "Emma, can I borrow some lipstick?" she asked loudly enough for others to hear, unzipping my bag and rummaging around inside. "I don't have any with me," I started to say, but she was already zipping it back up, her face flushed. 5 minutes later, Mrs. Henderson found her necklace, in my purse, right where Chloe had just been looking for lipstick. The shocked silence in that room will haunt me forever. But what came next? My sister's performance. That's what really broke something inside me that can never be fixed. The first betrayal came immediately. As Mrs. Henderson held up her necklace, found in my purse, Chloe's mouth dropped open in what looked like genuine shock. "Emma?" Her voice was small, confused. "How did that get in there?" Every face in that room turned to me. The weight of their stares felt like physical pressure. My parents, who had been chatting with other relatives, suddenly appeared beside me. I could feel my mother's hand grip my arm, not protectively, but like she was holding me in place. "There has to be an explanation," my father said, but his tone was already apologetic. Not defending me, apologizing for me. "I've never seen that necklace before tonight," I said, looking directly at Chloe. "You were wearing one just like it earlier." What are you talking about? Chloe's eyes filled with tears. Real tears, or at least they looked real. I would never wear something that expensive without permission. Mrs. Henderson, I'm so sorry this happened. Emma's been under a lot of stress at work lately. The second betrayal was watching my parents nod along with her excuse. My mother actually squeezed my arm tighter and whispered in my ear, "Just apologize so we can all go home." Mrs. Henderson was kind but firm. "I think we should call the police. This is a family heirloom worth $30,000. $30,000. The room went silent again. That number hung in the air like smoke. "Please," my father stepped forward. "Let us handle this as a family. Emma will make this right." But Mrs. Henderson had already taken out her phone. "I have to report this, I'm sorry." The third betrayal happened while we waited for the police. My family formed a little huddle near the exit. Me on the outside, them whispering among themselves. I caught fragments. "Never shown these tendencies before. Maybe she's gambling again. Disappointed in her choices. Again? I'd never gambled in my life." These weren't slips of the tongue. They were building a narrative, creating a history that didn't exist. When Officer Martinez arrived, he was professional but thorough. His uniform was crisp, his notebook already out. He asked me to explain how the necklace ended up in my purse. I told him exactly what happened, that Chloe had been wearing it, had asked to look in my bag for lipstick, and that I'd never seen the necklace before tonight. "Has anyone else had access to your purse this evening?" he asked. "Just my sister, when she was looking for lipstick about 10 minutes ago." That's when Chloe spoke up, her voice shaking. "I never looked in her purse. Emma, why are you trying to blame me? I've been worried about you lately, but this—" She turned to Officer Martinez with tears streaming down her face. "My sister's been having money problems. She asked to borrow $3,000 last month and got angry when I couldn't help her." Another lie. I'd never asked Chloe for money, ever. My mother nodded sadly. "We've been concerned about Emma's spending habits for a while now." My father added, "She's been resentful that we've helped Chloe with medical school expenses, but couldn't do the same for her." Standing there, listening to my own family create an alternate reality where I was jealous, desperate, and financially unstable, something inside me crystallized, not broke, crystallized, into something harder and clearer than I'd ever been before. "Officer Martinez," I said calmly, "I'd like you to check something. Could you ask Mrs. Henderson exactly when she last remembered wearing the necklace this evening?" Mrs. Henderson thought carefully. "I definitely had it on during cocktail hour. I remember because several people complimented it. But I took it off in the powder room around 9:30 to wash my hands, and that's when I lost track of it." "And what time is it now?" I asked. Officer Martinez checked his watch. 10:15. So the necklace was missing for about 45 minutes before it appeared in my purse. "Officer Martinez, I only arrived here at 9:15. Security cameras at the entrance should show that. And if you check with the parking attendant, he'll remember because I tipped him with a $5 bill. I always keep one folded in my wallet specifically for valet tips." The officer made notes. "We'll definitely check those details." That's when I saw it. A flicker of panic crossed Chloe's face. She hadn't expected me to fight back with facts. But my parents weren't panicking. They were getting angry that their troubled daughter wasn't just accepting responsibility and making this go away quietly. What none of them knew, what I'd kept to myself for 2 years, was that I wasn't just a bookkeeper anymore. I'd been taking forensic accounting courses at night, studying fraud investigation techniques. It started as curiosity about my field, but I'd fallen in love with the methodical process of uncovering truth through paper trails. More importantly, I'd been documenting things for months, not because I expected anything like this, but because I'd noticed Chloe's lifestyle didn't match her supposed income. Designer bags, expensive dinners, weekend trips she claimed were gifts from friends. As someone who actually manages budgets for a living, the numbers never added up. 3 weeks earlier, I'd seen Chloe's credit card statement on my parents' kitchen counter. They were still helping her with payments while she was in school. The balance was overwhelming, but what caught my attention were the merchant names. High-end jewelry stores, luxury boutiques, places that suggested she was buying expensive items, not just living beyond her means on daily expenses. What they didn't know was that I'd started keeping records, not because I was planning anything, just because discrepancies bothered me professionally. I had photos on my phone from tonight's party, including several clear shots of Chloe wearing what was clearly Mrs. Henderson's necklace. I'd taken them earlier because the necklace was so beautiful, thinking I might ask her where she'd gotten it. But there was something else, something that made my hands steady, instead of shaking as I stood there listening to my family throw me under the bus. They thought they knew me. Quiet Emma, who never fought back, who always took the blame to keep peace. But they'd never met the Emma who spent 6 months learning how to trace financial fraud. The Emma who'd been quietly watching and documenting their Golden Girls' increasingly expensive taste and increasingly creative explanations for where the money came from. I had more than photos. I had screenshots, receipts, and a memory for details that comes from years of balancing books down to the penny. Most importantly, I had something they'd never expected me to develop, the absolute certainty that I was done being their convenient scapegoat. They thought I'd stay quiet to avoid embarrassing the family. They were wrong. Officer Martinez was more thorough than my family had expected. While they stood around looking increasingly uncomfortable, he made his calls. The country club security was cooperating, and the parking attendant not only remembered me arriving late, but remembered our brief conversation about the traffic on Highway 6. Miss Emma was definitely here by 9:20, at the latest, he told the officer. She mentioned she was worried about missing cocktail hour. That eliminated 40 minutes of the window when the necklace was missing. But more importantly, it established that someone else had been lying about timeline details. Mrs. Henderson was also being more helpful than anyone anticipated. Officer, I should mention that this necklace has a very distinctive clasp. It's vintage, and it tends to catch on fabric. I actually remember thinking earlier this evening how carefully the young lady wearing one just like it must have put it on, because it lay so perfectly flat. My mother stepped forward quickly. Mrs. Henderson, you must be thinking of someone else's jewelry. Emma would never— Oh, I didn't mean Emma, Mrs. Henderson clarified, looking confused. I meant the other young lady, the one in the burgundy dress who was by the bar earlier. She had on a necklace identical to mine. Chloe was wearing burgundy. The silence that followed was different from the earlier ones. This wasn't shocked judgment. This was the sound of a story unraveling. Officer Martinez looked at me. Did you happen to take any photos tonight? Several, I said calmly. Would you like me to show them to you? My father's voice was sharp. Emma, don't make this more complicated than it needs to be. But I was already pulling out my phone, scrolling through the photos. There it was, Chloe at 9:45 p.m., clearly wearing Mrs. Henderson's necklace, time-stamped and everything. I handed the phone to Officer Martinez. He studied the photo, then looked at Mrs. Henderson. Is this the necklace that was taken? Yes, absolutely. That's definitely my necklace. Officer Martinez looked at Chloe. Miss, can you explain how you came to be wearing Mrs. Henderson's necklace in this photo? That's when Chloe's composure finally cracked. I wasn't wearing— She looked desperately at our parents. Tell them I would never do something like this. My father stepped closer to the officer. This is clearly a misunderstanding. Perhaps the photo isn't clear enough to— Dad. My voice was steady, almost gentle. The photo is time-stamped. The metadata will show exactly when and where it was taken. And there are probably security cameras that captured the same time frame. For the first time, all evening, my family looked at me like they didn't recognize me. Not disappointed, not apologetic, actually confused about who I was and what I was capable of. The tension in that room was suffocating. They were realizing that quiet, accommodating Emma had evidence, allies, and a spine they'd never bothered to notice. I need to speak with each of you separately, Officer Martinez announced. The family bubble that had protected Chloe for 25 years was about to burst in the most public way possible. They separated us into different areas of the club. I could see my parents through the glass doors of the manager's office, their faces grave as they spoke in urgent whispers. Chloe was in the ladies' lounge with a female officer, and I could hear her crying from the hallway. When Officer Martinez sat down with me in the library, his demeanor had shifted. Professional, but not accusatory. Emma, I want to be straight with you. The physical evidence doesn't support your family's timeline. Your phone metadata confirms when you took these photos, the parking records confirm your arrival time, and security footage shows you had no opportunity to take the necklace from Mrs. Henderson. What does it show about my sister? It shows her in the powder room at 9:47 p.m., 3 minutes after your time-stamped photo of her wearing the necklace. She was in there for 8 minutes, unusually long for a bathroom visit. 8 minutes, long enough to remove a necklace, panic about what to do with it, and come up with a plan to plant it on someone else. There's something else, Officer Martinez continued. Mrs. Henderson mentioned that several expensive items have gone missing from country club events over the past 6 months. Jewelry, mainly. Never enough to cause a major investigation, and never involving the same families twice. But there's been a pattern. My stomach dropped. You think Chloe has been stealing from people? I think we need to have a longer conversation with your sister. But first, I need to ask you directly, is there anything else you know about your sister's recent activities that might be relevant? This was it. The moment where I chose between protecting my family's reputation and telling the truth. I pulled out my phone again, this time scrolling to a folder I'd labeled Concerns. Screenshots of Chloe's social media posts over the past 6 months. Designer handbags, expensive restaurant meals, jewelry that cost more than her monthly allowance. Posts always tagged at upscale locations, always showing items that should have been far beyond her budget. I started noticing things, I told him. I'm an accountant. Discrepancies bother me. These posts show a lifestyle that costs at least 3 times what my parents give her for school expenses. Officer Martinez studied the screenshots. This is very helpful. We'll need copies of these. 20 minutes later, he called us all back together. The atmosphere in that room was electric with tension. My parents kept shooting me looks that clearly said stop making this worse, but I was past caring about their disapproval. After reviewing the evidence and speaking with each of you separately, Officer Martinez announced, I'm arresting Chloe Morrison for theft of property worth over $30,000. The sound my mother made wasn't quite a scream, but it wasn't far from it. Officer, please, my father stepped forward. Surely we can work this out without involving the legal system. We're a respectable family. This is just a misunderstanding. Mr. Morrison, your daughter attempted to frame her sister for a crime she committed. That's not a misunderstanding. That's calculated fraud. As the handcuffs clicked around Chloe's wrists, the sound I'd heard in my nightmare opening, she finally looked at me directly. I'm sorry, she whispered. I was desperate. The credit card companies were calling, and I thought if I could just sell a few pieces, pay them off, no one would ever know. So you decided to let me go to jail instead. She couldn't answer that. Neither could my parents. But Mrs. Henderson, who had been quietly watching this family drama unfold, walked over to me as the police led Chloe away. I'm sorry you had to go through this, dear, but I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. That took real courage. For once, someone in that room was proud of me. It just wasn't anyone I was related to. The ride home was silent except for my mother's crying and my father's angry muttering about family loyalty and airing dirty laundry in public. When we got to my parents' house where I'd left my car, they both turned to face me in the driveway. The porch light cast harsh shadows on their faces. I hope you're satisfied, my mother said. Your sister's future is ruined because you couldn't just let this go quietly. My sister's future was ruined the moment she decided to steal from people and frame me for it. We could have handled this as a family, my father added. Paid Mrs. Henderson back, gotten Chloe some help. Instead, you chose to humiliate all of us. I looked at these 2 people who had raised me, who had spent the entire evening trying to convince everyone I was a thief to protect their golden child, and felt nothing but exhaustion. I chose to tell the truth. If that humiliates you, maybe the problem isn't me. I got in my car and drove away. For the first time in my life, their disappointment in me felt like freedom. If you've ever been the scapegoat in your family, the one expected to take the blame so everyone else can look good, I want you to know something. Their opinion of you doesn't define your worth. Your truth matters, even when it's inconvenient for people you love. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. I read every single one. And if you've had to stand up to family manipulation, share your story. There are more of us than you think, and we're stronger when we support each other. You're not alone in this fight. On your screen, 2 stories are calling you. Click and watch them now. Each one more gripping than the last.